This is what Coach Prime wears uh, mm, uh, mm, when he's pretending to coach football games, even at night and on cloudy days, to mm, mm, hide the miserable look of confusion on his face. Mm, but I don't have anything to hide, so I'll take mine off now. Mm, so, mm, Colorado got buffaloed. Uh, the Colorado Buffaloes got buffaloed uh, when they hired Deion Sanders to be their head coach after the 2022 season. Uh, and I had never even heard of him before Colorado hired him. Uh, but now, uh, after that, I can't stop hearing about him. Last off season, uh, all these uh, sports websites like ESPN and Fox Sports and places mm, were uh, were talking the most about Colorado. Uh, it wasn't about Georgia, who had just won the last two championships, or Alabama, and you know what they've done. There's no point in me even getting into it again. Uh, mm, it was Colorado that got all of the attention because they hired Sanders, who uh, mm, is a former NFL player that did really well in the pro. He played cornerback and was a return specialist also. Mm, And, and then uh, they uh, uh, had what was mm, uh, called the number one uh, group of transfers mm, this past off season. Mm, And mm, mm, when the season started, mm, they mm, beat TCU, mm, who it went to the national championship game the year before. So uh, mm, after that, Colorado was getting nearly all of the attention, and TCU turned out to be nowhere near as good as they were the year before. They didn't even end up making a bowl game. Uh, mm, and then uh, mm, the week after that, they beat a Nebraska team that's not been to a bowl game in so long. Mm, They blew them out, and then after that, uh, mm, they got even more attention from the sports places. After that, Colorado mm, was getting even more attention than uh, Texas was after they had just beat Alabama mm, in Tuscaloosa. Mm, mm, mm. And uh, uh, Coach Prime's mm, son, it was their quarterback this past season, and in the game against TCU, he threw for 500 and something yards, and then nearly 400 yards against the Nebraska team. And then after that, he he according to the sports websites, he was the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. It was already done. He was just waiting until December to go get the trophy. Mm, And Colorado was winning the Pac-12. They were going to win 10 games. They were ranked after their first win, and then of course they were ranked after their second win too. Mm, It was crazy. Mm, And then mm, uh, you were also seeing stuff mm, mm, about how uh, Deion Sanders was or is the best football coach ever after he won two games against two uh, terrible teams. It turned out, Mm, and he had never even coached mm, mm, a team in the Power Five mm, before Colorado. Mm, and mm, then mm, after that, mm, uh, mm, they had to have two overtimes to beat their rival, Colorado State, who's not even a Power Five team. You could hardly call that a rivalry. Uh, mm, so then they were 3-0 at that point, and uh, those first several weeks of college football, every time I watched a game, like every 5 minutes, I'd see a cartoon buffalo uh, mm, mm, with uh, a cartoon picture of uh, Coach Prime uh, riding it, uh, and mm, so mm, then mm, mm, it came time for the truth to come out about them. Mm, they had a game against Oregon next, and you know how good they were this past year. And mm, before that game, I was telling my dad that I think Colorado is so overrated, and I think when they play Oregon, it's going to show. Mm, mm, and that's exactly what happened. They got blown out 42-6. It was over at halftime, uh, like I thought would happen. And anyone that knows anything about college football should know was going to happen. Mm, But the sports places still would not stop talking about Coach Prime and his amazing Colorado team. Mm, mm, and uh, you know how insulting it is to call that coach Coach Prime, uh, because you know what being in your prime means. It means that you're at your best of something. And Colorado was a horrible team last year. They end up finishing 4-8. So if he's in his prime, he won't even last at a horrible program like Colorado. So uh, I don't think that should be sad if you're trying to make him look good. Mm, And uh, also, Colorado's quarterback from the past season, who's Sanders' son, and will be their quarterback this season, isn't any good actually. Mm, and uh, I know he threw for over 3,200 yards this past season, but that's because Colorado's offensive line was so horrible that they couldn't run the ball at all. Uh, mm, they finished last in the country, not just in the Power Five, but in the country of the Division One teams in rushing yards per game at 68.9. Horrible. Mm, mm, mm. And mm, they uh, mm, allowed 56 sacks last season. That is just horrible. They had at best the worst offensive line in the Power Five last season, so they had no choice but to throw it nearly every time. They averaged 2.3 yards per run last year. Horrible. And so that 294.7 passing yards per game that they averaged, that was 16th in the country. Don't let that trick you into thinking that they were actually that good of a passing team. Mm, And mm, they averaged 28 points per game scoring, and that's actually pretty average for what these websites were saying they were on offense mm, early in the season. Mm, they only ended up ranked 61 in points per game, and their defense was horrible last year. It ranked 122nd in the country at allowing 34.8 points per game, but it wasn't the worst in the Power Five. Uh, you actually had a better defense. Uh, mm, if you're a fan of Colorado, uh, mm, than Southern Cal did last year. So congratulations. And you know who Southern Cal's coach is? It's Lincoln Riley, and you know that he has no defense ever. Mm, So mm, that's not too much of a big deal, really, to have a better defense than the team he's coaching at. Uh, and you actually beat his defense by zero point 0.1 points per game allowed. They were the worst in the Power Five at 34.9 points per game allowed. So mm, great for Colorado. Uh, mm, and also, uh, mm, 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 this will be uh, Sanders' final season at Colorado, too, very likely. Uh, mm, because I don't think he has any plans of coaching long, uh, because he doesn't know how to coach anyway. I think the whole point of this was just to try to get his son into the NFL, and then so after this coming season, he'll leave because his son won't be quarterback anymore. Uh, mm, mm. And then uh, his son will go to the NFL to sit on the bench and not get on the field only if the starting quarterback at the team that drafts him gets hurt or when it's garbage time uh, during a game where the team that he's on is ahead by like 40 points mm, because uh, the Colorado quarterback isn't good enough to be a starter in the NFL. Mm, and mm, also, uh, Colorado did not really have the best transfer portal group this past season at all. They just filled their whole roster with transfers that weren't any good at all. So then it ended up showing them as having the number one group of transfers. Mm, and they rank right now 106 in recruiting. Horrible. Uh, Coach Prime can't recruit. He just wants to use the transfer portal. Mm, and don't be fooled by them being ranked fifth in the portal this year. They're just bringing in a bunch more terrible players that couldn't get on the field anywhere, hardly except Colorado. Mm, and mm, uh, I'll go through the rest of Colorado's amazing season. I'm being sarcastic, horrible season. So then after that beating that they took from Oregon, they uh, played Southern Cal, who I just talked about. Uh, mm, they actually beat them on defense uh, this year in points allowed, but mm, mm, USC, unlike Colorado, actually had a really good quarterback and some really good receivers and good running backs. So. Mm, mm, Colorado still couldn't beat USC. They lost by a touchdown. Uh, mm, and then they were able to get their only conference win of the season after that loss they took to USC against Arizona State. They beat them by 3 points. A horrible team that finished 3-9 this year. And then after that they blew a 29-0 lead against Stanford to lose to them in overtime, who is also one of the worst Power Five teams. Mm, mm, and then they lost by double digits to UCLA. Uh, mm, and then they actually got within a touchdown of Oregon State after that, so that wasn't too bad. Mm, and then also they got within a field goal of beating Arizona, and Arizona was good, so uh, at least that they came close to them. And then after that, they took a horrible beating by Washington State, who didn't even make a bowl game this year, 56-14. And then uh, after that, they lost to Utah by only 6 points. So at least it wasn't a bad loss. You know, Utah did have a really good defense, but they didn't have any offense this past season hardly. Uh, mm, so they finished 4-8 and 1-8 in the conference, losing 8 of their last 9 games. And uh, the team that, after winning 2 games, was supposed to win that conference finished last in the conference. They finished 12th of the 12 teams in the Pac-12, and uh, mm, uh, Colorado actually ruined the Pac-12 because uh, it was announced before the 2022 season that Southern Cal and uh, UCLA were leaving for the Big Ten. So then they were going to be down to 10 teams, but still have a conference. And then uh, before this past season started, Colorado left for the Big 12. That is the conference they had left to go to the Pac 12, probably because at the time, the Big 12 was the second best conference and the Pac 12 was the weakest conference. So they had to get out of there to go to the Pac 12 so they'd have a chance at winning a few games. But now that the Pac 12 has actually gotten good again, uh, they had to get out to go to the Big 12, which, now is weaker without Texas and Oklahoma, so they'd have a chance at ever making a bowl game again. Uh, mm, which they won't do this year with Coach Prime. Uh, and then after they left, go back to the Big 12, 7 of the other 9 teams that were left in the conference left. So now the Pac 12 was just down to 2 teams left, and you can't have a 2-team conference, so the conference had to end. Mm, and mm, uh, mm, Also, Deion Sanders isn't even a real coach. He has no idea what he's doing. If Colorado actually wants to start uh, being somewhat decent in college football, they're gonna have to hire a real coach after he dumps them after this season when his son goes uh, to sit on the bench in the NFL. Uh, mm, so uh, Yeah, sure was a great season for Colorado. They beat 4 horrible teams and lost to anyone that was any good at all. Mm, and they're going to be horrible again next year too. Don't let these uh, sports places fool you into thinking that they're going to be great in the second year of this stuff. Of mm, Coach Prime's clown show of a team. Mm, and mm, mm, also, mm, 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 uh, don't give me, if you're a Colorado fan, you're a racist. Yeah. Mm, because I'm not. Maybe you are for uh, thinking just because of the color of his skin that he was going to be a great coach. Maybe you shouldn't have thought that just because of that. But it's not my fault uh, that you thought that. So uh, don't try to come at me in the comments. Mm, mm, and mm, that team really has no good players. They didn't last year, and they won't this year either. Uh, mm, and mm, in my next video, I'll actually start back talking about some stuff uh, that, unlike Colorado, actually matters in college football. Mm, mm. I'm going to do a video soon about the top transfers, but because of the Nick Saban retirement, the Alabama players get 30 days to enter the portal, and two of their best players entered the portal today, and they'll be on the list. So I've got to wait and see where they go before I can make the video. But I'll make it mm, mm, as mm, as soon as I can. And please subscribe to the channel. And thanks for watching.